warm-up series that we can implement with our golfers. And this is a very integral part of the preparation phase for golf. So Greg's an expert on that. We want to have him take us through. Then at 1 o'clock, we're going to have the Vision 54 ladies coming on. So stay with us.
Thank you, Lance. All right, good afternoon. How's everybody doing so far? Enjoying the show? Expo? Great. All right, so I would say as a fitness professional, one of the number one things that I get asked, messaged, emailed about is, what do I do for a warm-up prior to playing golf? So I wanted to take this opportunity to go through a basic warm-up that pretty much anybody could do on the golf course. So obviously if we were doing something in the gym, there might be some individualization to it depending on what people have going on. But the purpose of a warm-up prior to playing isn't necessarily to gain all this brand new range of motion, to get stronger, to force your body into these weird positions. The purpose of a warm-up is simply to increase the body temperature and get your body prepared for movement. So what I'm actually going to have everybody do is, if you guys can, I'm going to have everybody stand up. This is going to be very easy. If you have a balance issue, feel free to use your chair, whereas I might have someone use their golf club. So everybody stand up where they are. If you guys are on the edges, you're welcome to use the edge. But I'm going to go through everything that I would normally do for a normal dynamic warm-up on the course. All right, so the first thing I'm going to have you do is basically just standing on one leg. If you need the chair to balance or your club to balance, I basically just want you to do basic ankle circles. All right, if you're comfortable balancing, you're welcome to balance. All right, so part of what that's doing is just kind of warming up the ankle. As you guys know, every joint in your body, the ankle, the knee, the hip, all needs to be loose. And then go ahead and switch sides. And my goal for this 15 minutes is to give you guys everything that you need. Don't feel like you need to memorize it. If you need all these, I'm welcome to send them to you. The next thing I'm going to have you do is basically a couple different versions of leg swings. So we're kind of working from the hip. When we do this, I'm not using my back and my upper body posture. I want to stay fairly upright. And when I start, it's just going to be a light leg swing back and forth. I'm pulling my toe up, and it's just comfortable. All right. If you have a balance issue, feel free to use a club or a chair. All right, some people may have a club in front of them to do this as well. So basic swings, you're working hip flexor, hamstring, glutes, and then switch sides if you haven't. Fairly comfortable. You're not forcing range of motion. I'm not trying to kick as high as I can. I'm not arching my back. I'm not losing my posture. Because part of this is, as I'm standing still, I'm using my postural muscles as well. All right, the next leg swing is laterally. But there's a specific way I want to do this to work the internal and external rotation of the hips. So I'm actually going to go across my body, but I'm intentionally going to point my toe up to the side, and when I cross over, up to the other side. So I'm intentionally opening and closing, and again, if you guys need to, feel free, put a chair in front of you, and I'll get all the way up, all the way over, all the way up, all the way over, or feel free to use a partner, all right? So if you notice, not only is the moving leg getting range of motion, but the down leg as well is opening and closing at the same time. Does that kind of make sense? All right? So now as we go back basically in a standing position, here's the best way I can think about this. I'm going to kick one toe up, and I'm going to get hamstrings and calves. In keeping my upper body posture, I'm going to just hinge forward at the hips. All right? This is different than slumping like I'm trying to touch my toe. If I were to put my club behind my back, my spine stays straight. You should feel a stretch down the hamstring and the calf. And you can just alternate. Comfortable stretches. I'm not forcing anything. All right, so you should feel that hips, hamstrings, calves, and I'm going to go the opposite. So this is the flexion stretch. So then I'm going to step back. So for you guys, I'm going to step forward. All right, I'm going to scoop my hips as far underneath me as I can. I'll start to feel a little stretch on that back leg. And the more I scoop, I'm going to lean away from my back leg. So this is a lunge with reach back. So what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to open up that side, that hip flexor, the obliques, all those muscles. And again, same thing, I'm just going to step, scoop, and switch. And all you need to do, you don't need to hold these. I'm not really holding them for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I'm just alternating. I'm intentionally moving my body. Lunge with reach back. Lunge, scoop the hips underneath you, reach back. Now obviously because we do play a rotational sport, I'll also add one more to this. I'll also, same position, step, scoop the hips as far underneath you as you can, and then you're going to rotate over your front leg. Right? You can do this both ways, but when I intentionally go over my front leg, it locks my hips up, and it allows me to get as much torso rotation as possible. And same thing, I'm just rotating, I'm alternating sides, step, scoop, reach. You guys want to do anything over here? Just watch it. Step, scoop, and reach, step, scoop, and reach. So you should feel it through the obliques, through the midsection, even into the hips. All right? And then the last couple, again, some of these are going to depend on who I'm working with, but I'm going to step over to the side, so feel free to step forward, give yourself some room. All right, there you go. And I'm basically going to use my hand for support, and I'm basically going to sit back on that heel. And if that's comfortable, the leg that I left, I can point up. And you can change which muscle you actually stretch, hamstring, adductor. All right? Alternate back and forth. The bigger step, the better here, because you actually get a better stretch in your adductor and your hamstrings. See, I don't really do any holds. It's really just movement. Just step, hold, step, hold. 1 second tops, 2 seconds. If you have a really, really tight muscle, there's a whole lot of other stuff you can do to it as far as myofascial release. All right? A couple extra ones. Put your hands, I don't want you pulling your head, but your hands are just resting behind your head. And as upright as possible, I'm going to try to touch my elbows in front of my face, and then try to touch my elbows behind my back. Touch my elbows in front of my face, touch behind the back. All right? And just back and forth. And what we've done is we've gone from the bottom, from the ankles, all the way up. Ankles, calves, hamstrings, hips, obliques, hip flexors, and now we're going in thoracic spine. So far, so good? So now, after that, then I would start getting into more of the rotational dynamic stuff. So you could do this with or without a club, or if you've walked around this entire expo, there's a ton of swinging implements, but I'm gonna have everybody get into golf posture. Arms across their chests. All right, we use this as a test too, but keeping your hips still, I just wanna rotate the upper body back and forth. Now watch me though, I'm not using my lower body. I'm intentionally stabilizing, using those stabilizing muscles, and just rotating the upper body back and forth. And if you guys have ever done this one before, now the upper body stays still, and I'm just gonna rotate the lower body back and forth. A little harder. And then from that position, then you could get into more of a full swing position. Now, keep in mind, obviously golf is a one-sided sport, but we're doing all of these to both sides. So as I go into this position, I'm gonna go all the way to one side, all the way to the other. And this is not swing speed yet. This is basically just movement. Rotating back and forth. And then from that position, once we've got into the full range of motion, that's when we would grab the club. We would go into comfortable swings, chipping, putting, and then into full swing. So just out of curiosity, how many of you play golf? Trick question, I'm assuming that's probably everybody. How many of you warm up prior to playing golf? Okay, so we just did a very, very brief, probably 7-minute routine. You feel the muscles kind of kicked in, working. We're not really trying to break a sweat. We're not. You shouldn't be coming out of a warm-up huffing and puffing. The purpose is just to try to get all those muscles moving, because you're going to be using all those muscles when you play golf. Now, if you guys have students that have specific issues, that warm-up should be okay for all of them. If they have back pain when any of those movements, then you can also regress those. All right? When you're in the gym, technically what I would do as far as the dominant warm-up in the gym is I could do every single one of those. If you guys were in the Eldora talk before, there's a lot of stuff you can do on the ground as well. And then while you guys are sitting down, this is really important, when you guys are sitting for long periods of time, there's one warm-up that I have people do that you can do sitting. So what I want everybody to do is sit their hips as far back into their chair as possible. And if you noticed, you weren't sitting very upright if you're slumped forward. All right? So even during the day, there's things that you can start to do to start preparing yourself, especially when you're playing later that day. So same thing when you were actually, let's test. Put your arms across the chest. All right, sit up as tall as you can. Right? And everybody rotate to the right as far as they can. And think about a gauge. Look over your shoulder and see where your shoulder is pointing. Right? And then rotate to the left and go as far as you can. And you can also see if there's maybe an asymmetry one side or the other. So now in the sitting position, we're going to go back to one of the warm-ups that we did before. Right? But now this time what you're going to do is once you bring your elbows forward, you're going to flex forward so you're looking down towards your toes. And then you're going to come up, extend your arms back, shoulders back. Use the back of the chair as a little extension so you're looking all the way up towards the sky. And I intentionally want you guys to do that 10 times. All the way down, hold for just a second or two. All the way up, hold for just a second or two. And what that does is that's opening up your thoracic spine. And again, if you're at a desk job all day and you know you're going to go play, you can actually do this right off the bat before you ever leave the office. And then after you do that 10 times, I'm gonna let a couple people do a few more reps. Arms across the chest again. And now retest, just to see what it does. Rotate as far as you can to the right. And you'll see a little bit of extra range of motion there that you may not have had before. So again, the purpose of warm-up isn't necessarily to get drastically new range of motion that you've never had before, because that could completely change your swing. All you're really trying to do is use those muscles when you go out to play golf. Any questions? Comfortable warm-up? All right, no one's aching in pain, sweating, breathing. Right. So thank you guys very much for listening to me. We have another talk coming up in a few minutes. If you guys have any questions or things you want to talk about as far as warm-up, I'll be around for the next 5-10 minutes. Thank you guys.